Welcome to the Beautiful Game Plan podcast, produced by Focus Shift Films and sponsored by Welsh sports fans. I'm your host, Daniel J. Harris. I'm a filmmaker and entrepreneur working across sport, and I'm a huge fan of sports content. This podcast is my chance to meet amazing people who are doing amazing things in the sports content space and to share their stories with you in the hope that it inspires ideas. First series began whilst I was still working as commercial director at Eastleigh Media. Let's dive in and meet our guest. So today we have Rob Dowling from the FA Wales. Hello Rob, can you just tell the people at home a little bit about yourself and what you do at the FAW?
Yeah, definitely. Cheers, Dan. Thanks for having me on the cast. So yeah, basically I'm head of comms, content and engagement at the FAW. I've worked here for the past 18 years, just over 18 years, actually, and started working at the FAW before it even had a sort of recognised media department. So very much been involved in terms of the journey that the FAW has had in terms of the media, and then across some of the big some of the big achievements within Welsh football as well, particularly international level, with all the major tournaments that we've now qualified for. So yeah, I've kind of been here for that entire journey, been very much part of that journey, and hopefully have played a little bit of a part within that journey as well. So I'm a football fan myself in terms of supporting my local football team, Tom Pentre Football Club, which anybody watching this will not be surprised that I've probably mentioned. But just generally, I think in terms of supporting the domestic game, something which I'm really passionate about understanding through myself volunteering in the game, and having that ability now to work at the FAW and make some of the changes or be involved in some of the great work that goes on now. You can put that real life learning into it. So yeah, hopefully I feel that over the 18 years, through all the different roles that I've had, because like I said, there's no media department, so I've done lots of different things. Hopefully, through all of the roles that I've had, I've been able to contribute to Welsh football in some shape or form.
Fantastic. And we've been working together for a number of years and across a number of projects. I know you're a very passionate football fan and Tom Pentre fan. How did you get started then with your career? How did you end up at the FAW? Did you set out to work in football, or was it a happy accident?
Yeah, I definitely didn't set out to work in football. I think, very early on, I think I've always kind of wanted to be doing something a little bit creative, I guess. But it's always been a mixture of different things. Very originally, I probably wanted to be a children's television presenter very early. Wow. After wanting to be a train driver would have been the original thing when I was a kid. But then I used to love sort of going live on TV and live and kick in and things like that. So I grew up sort of watching those shows. So I kind of wanted to be involved in children's TV. I think it's just the way that children's TV engages, I guess, isn't it? And I used to sort of enjoy that. It looked good fun. It looked fun being part of a team. And then, yeah, the football bug got me. I would say that it was FIFA World Cup 1994. Was the first World Cup where I watched it wall to wall, and in terms of remembered every single moment from Diana Ross to the World Cup final. So I think that's where football really grabbed hold of me, and I've just always supported Tom Pentre Football Club as well. And I used to play behind the goals, and then and that's all I was interested in, was playing football behind the goals rather than watching it. But then gradually, then as I was getting older and taking more interest, I started really enjoying watching it and could see what the football club was doing for its for the community. And then gradually got more and more involved in that side of things. But yeah, always had that interest in the sort of media side of things, really. So even from a very young age, I'd be making my own match programs, for example, for my own imaginary football team. And then I end up doing match reports, for doing match programs for Tom Pentre and then for Wales eventually as well. But yeah, I think my love of the game has definitely come through Tom Pentre, and having that I think that the sort of unique selling point of Welsh domestic football in particular is that ability to get as involved in it as what you want, and I think that's what's really influenced me in terms of going around the country watching my local football team play, and how it's actually made me more aware of everything that's going on in the country, and being aware of how wonderful Wales is, and going to places which you wouldn't normally decide to visit, which again is kind of linked to Wales Away, and that's the appeal of Wales Away for many fans, and that you go to countries you wouldn't normally go on holiday. So then I used to volunteer a lot for Ton in terms of doing all the social media stuff, and then joined the FAW. But I joined the FAW in safeguarding department. I previously worked for the police, actually, in the community safety partnership, which was in RCT, and that was a sort of hybrid organisation that had the police, the fire service, and local council working together in sort of collaboration to try and make things better for the region. And then basically it was a fixed term contract that was coming to an end, so I'd essentially almost lost my job at the organisation, and someone passed the job advert for the FAW to me, which was for the welfare department at the time, so safeguarding department as it would be known now, and that's where I started at the FAW. So I applied for that, got the job. I remember going into David Collins's office in Westgate Street, the old FAW carpet, going up the stairs, being really nervous. And by the time that I was getting back home to the Rhondda on the train from the interview, I was being offered the job at the FAW. And, so when I look back at that moment now to where I am now, and everything that's happened in between, what an incredible appointment that was for the FAW, and for me, maybe. So, but no, in all sort of seriousness, when I started working at the FAW, then it's just that ability to really get involved. I really understood, I think, sort of what the clubs were going through, what volunteers were going through, and hopefully I was able to use a lot of that knowledge, sort of to do that. But my background really was, through university was media. In terms of the courses that I did, I wanted to be a radio presenter at one point, and I got to do student radio. And I always made sure that I was volunteering and writing for either the local newspaper or like the old football paper that used to come out, non-league paper that used to come out on a Sunday. I used to write a little bit for them as well. So I've always sort of been involved. And then, like I said, there wasn't really a media department at the FAW when I joined. And I eventually moved into the discipline department from safeguarding. So I started doing all the red and yellow cards. And it was at that point then when I realized that, nobody was running social media accounts for the FAW. I'd been sort of running them for the local football team, for Ton, and then realized that I was getting sort of pretty good engagement there, and thought, well, gosh, if we could do this on a more national sort of level in terms of the things that I was learning sort of there, and sort of understanding how we could use social media to change people's perceptions of the FAW, which wasn't the best when I joined. It started from there. So whilst I was doing disciplinary, driving here, there and everywhere, doing disciplinary hearings and processing red and yellow cards, I was also tweeting at the same time, and that's probably where it all sort of started in terms of my role within everything that's happened. Because it's taken a lot of people to get the FAW to where it is now, and there's the success that we've had.
Yeah, and those beginnings in domestic football in Tom Pentra and in a community, like I know from working with you, the sense of community and engagement with the community and the fan base around you is an important part of what you do at the FAW. And as you said, you've been there for just over 18 years now. So how has the rapid evolution of technology into the digital age shaped the FAW's content strategies over those years? Like you said, there wasn't a media department when you joined, and now you've got a media department, you've got redwallplus, a streaming platform, you've got social media platforms. How has that evolution of technology kind of shaped those strategies?
Yeah, I think one thing, and this is what I learned sort of whilst sort of doing things for my local club, is that it's difficult to get people in through the door. But digital media gives that opportunity to sort of basically relate to them and communicate with them directly. or certainly make people more aware of what you're about. And I don't think it's been, it hasn't been anything different here at the FAW. But I think what's been important, because I talk quite a bit around sort of the FAW's use of social media and what we've done around that. But I think it's important, I think, to the when we look at it, and certainly what we've done, it's been a little bit of everything. It's still been that old-fashioned word of mouth. It's been sort of great kind of branded campaigns as well that really sort of capture people's imagination, as well as then that raw sort of communication, so utilizing social media to communicate with people directly. So I think it is very much a little bit of everything, but how it's all those things join up. A lot of people may look and see social media as something different to actually doing sort of physical visits. Ian Gwynn Hughes, for example, go right around the country taking the national team manager. I was lucky to go around on quite a few of them and get to do that role as well. He double booked himself once. He booked Chris Coleman into Kevin Druids, and he booked himself a holiday, so I had to fill in and do the Q&A. I've been Kevin Druids thrown into the deep end. Doing it.
All that they wanted to be a children's entertainer and a radio presenter, all came to fruition there.
Oh, I did, exactly. So yeah, I've managed to get to do a little bit of everything that I wanted to when I was growing up, whether it was doing the presenting and also, so I managed to get to do it all. But again, those events were proper word of mouth, and the word spread. So the reason why that's important, and then how we sort of utilized the sort of digital media then, is that when people are seeing things that we are posting on social media, it's very authentic, because the work that sort of IG was doing by taking the manager around the country, it sort of it matches up when people are seeing that, and then they're seeing the way that we're communicating with them online. It's very authentic and genuine, and I think that's the most important thing. In that we weren't trying to fake anything. It is actually happening. And then when you then sort of tie in, things like Together Stronger is obviously something that any Welsh football fan should know about. When you're then looking at the visuals and in particular, where it really sort of started and where I feel we really got it kind of right is the great work that sort of Pete Barnes did around the branding for that the Euro 2016 campaign, build up to it, and the way that, again, that sort of interaction we were having, within the localities with people, within their communities, and then what we were then saying on social media was being matched then by the brand, so the look and feel of Together Stronger, which was never really used as a traditional marketing campaign. It was used as a kind of call to action, and they saw themselves within that as well. That 2016 campaign had the fans stood alongside the players, with Wales as the backdrop, but not the kind of Wales that maybe traditionally would have been used, of using the Cardiff cityscapes and the landmarks that are within our city sort of centres. Instead, we weren't afraid to use the rugged landscape or castles, showing our history, or we weren't afraid to use terraced housing in the background. That's what people recognise. That's where our fans are from. So when people were seeing this imagery, it all felt very sort of genuine, because they knew that we were sort of reaching out to the communities right across Wales. And then when you look at it, in terms of some of the work that we've done together with FC Cymru, as a great example, one of the things I always wanted to do was have a Welsh football show, because there wasn't a Welsh football show really anywhere else that was representing the game through all levels in Wales. So FC Cymru became something that was really important, because again, that was almost like that continuation of it after 2016. That was the next step up of how we tried to represent everyone and tell people's stories. The show wasn't really about the football; it's about the people that allow the footballers to play the game on the pitch at whatever level they're playing at, whether that is the professional level or whether it is sort of amateur level or grassroots level. So I think in terms of our use of digital, I think we've been able to utilize it in such a way that it's been able to represent people and really connect with people, particularly where there was a space. Wales isn't blessed with a lot of its own sort of media outlets. It's a small country. a lot of the media outlets are owned by maybe bigger corporations, or even if there is a Welsh element to the media outlets, they haven't got a lot of time to show Welsh shows, because they have to have network programming showing. So I think we kind of filled a little bit of a gap. We knew there was a desire for more Welsh football content, and I think across our digital platforms, that's what we've done. And you mentioned redwallplus there. That's almost like FC Cymru, but the next level up again, allowing us to tell very specific stories in details, as well as allowing us to touch upon things that FC Cymru wouldn't normally cover. We can deep dive into stories about the national teams of the past and some of the clubs and individuals within the game, as well as still tell in a bit more detail lovely stories from across the country of what our clubs are doing in the My Club series. But also, in terms of when you're looking at one of the most recent sort of releases there, and how significant I think that is in terms of stories that haven't been told. The Dragon on My Shirt is just a superb series, and we keep getting sort of great feedback from people that are discovering it on redwallplus as they're going on there, and we're getting great feedback in terms of the story that's telling, because they're stories that have never been told. So yeah, I think when you look at some of the things that we've been lucky enough to do, one, I've been able to tick off all the boxes of things I wanted to do as a kid, and I've been lucky enough to be in a position where I can make a decision that we're going to have a TV show, and we can do a music video and create a song. We've even done that.
Is this why you asked me to come up with a children's entertainment show that was based on a train?
Yeah, that probably is why. Yeah, how can we make that look more football? It takes the fans to the station. So I think a lot of those influences. I when I look back, actually, because I'm over 40 years old now, and I've been at the FAW for 18 years. And I think certainly where we qualified for the World Cup became, that was the golden chalice that obviously players were chasing, the fans wanted, and obviously we wanted. It was a dream, and probably never ever thought that we'd ever get to a World Cup when I started working at the FAW. But I think it's made me sort of quite reflective in terms of when you do look back and you see everything. I certainly see my sort of my influences that have come out through the work, and how I want to, the things that I wanted to see when I was growing up, and how I wanted to be communicated with. I kind of feel that I've been able to do some of that, and I guess you could probably talk to almost anybody here that's been here for a long time would probably be saying the same things. And I think that's what's kind of key, really, is that we're such passionate sort of Welsh football fans, whether that's the international game or the domestic game, that you can't stop it from coming out in terms of the work and in terms of the influence on your work. Even when I was driving up when I was doing discipline, when I was in the discipline department, I'd be doing disciplinary hearing. So I'd have to drive up to, we used to use the Holiday Inn on the A55 Chester West. And I always used to drive up all the way through the middle of Wales, because I absolutely love driving up through mid Wales and then up into North Wales. The scenery is incredible. Sometimes I play Iron Maiden driving through, just for that juxtaposition of the tranquility, and then thinking in my little sort of box as I'm driving up, it's got Iron Maiden playing just
ready for battle as you're going to talk to people about their disciplinary problems.
Exactly. Just for a bit of fun, but I absolutely love driving up through the middle of Wales. And I used to think on my way up, I often used to sort of look, and Traws would be one place where you're going through, and there'd be a row of houses. You think, why would any of the people in these houses want to support Wales? Why would they want to connect with the FAW? We're all the way down in Cardiff. It just feels like we're hours apart as it is, because Wales isn't the easiest to drive around. And I think that's always been something that's been in the back of my mind, and where I've had the opportunity now to work within a comms department and work on sort of campaigns and assist with branding and things like that. I think it's always been something that's in the back of my mind in terms of how do we communicate with people, and how do we engage them, how do we make them feel involved in what we're doing. And like I said, in terms of some of the examples I give with Euro 2016 and some of the work that's gone on in terms of taking the manager around the country, you can suddenly see that, in terms of in terms of Chris Coleman, a Gary Speed, a Rob Page walking into a community centre in a village in Wales that a lot of people perhaps wouldn't have heard of. You wouldn't really see that happening in many other countries, but it's important to us. It's important to the manager, and it's important to the organisation that we do those things so that everybody does, at some level, feel involved in the work that we're doing.
Riverside Sports Bar with Welsh sports fans is Newport's premier sports bar and has been voted best sports bar at the Welsh Hospitality Awards. With a range of huge TVs, an incredible food menu with burgers, dirty fries and much more, including vegan options, it is the place to watch sport. Visit www.riversidesportsbarnewport.com to find out more.
Yeah, and just to touch on a couple of things you said there. Young people don't know how good they've got it. Do you mean 3 tournaments out of 4? They didn't live through the Bobby Gould era. That was a strange old time to live through, as we've talked about before. But yeah, authenticity is absolutely key, isn't it? Is if you're the national governing body and you're representing a country like Wales, which is very different. Cardiff's very different from Llangefni. Tenby's very different from Wrexham. In terms of bringing all them people together and giving them something to engage with, it has to be authentic. And that's how we started working together. We at Eastleigh Media, we're creating our own kind of online magazine show with fans about fans, because there was nothing on the television. There was nothing out there engaging with us. And then we were talking with you and the FAW and started working with you. And that's evolved into FC Cymru and redwallplus, because we're super passionate about Welsh football and we love it and we live it and we breathe it. That comes across in what we do. And it's the same for you and the FAW, isn't it? You have to live and breathe it. I don't think you can kind of parachute in with a couple of ideas and go, yeah, that works. You have to understand the audience, and you've got to give them engaging, emotive content that pulls in their heartstrings a little bit. And nostalgia is such a powerful tool. If you can tell some of those stories of the good old days and engage with the older audience, but also the younger audience are then interested through their love of Bale and Ramsey and current success. They want to know a bit more about the history. So it becomes that authenticity has to come through. It becomes a shop window to a whole host of other stuff. And I suppose that kind of leads me quite nicely to redwallplus, which is the FAW's own streaming system, their own streaming platform. And on there's content about the current side. There's content about the teams from the 70s, from different periods. And it's bringing all those different things together, isn't it? So can you tell us a little bit about why it was important for the FAW to kind of to have their own streaming platform? Do you know what I mean? And kind of how do you incentivize a free platform as well and bring people into it?
Yeah, definitely. I think we're always looking at trying to do things differently. I think at the FAW as well, we don't feel we have to play by the rules. And I think we've done that to date in terms of everything that we do. And I think that's probably a little bit of the authenticity of it. We're not looking at doing what necessarily others have done. We're quite happy to steal ideas and make them sort of work for us. Obviously, that's whenever you attend anything with regards to sort of comms or social media, it's always about looking at what the trends are and things like that. But I think what's important to us is that sort of in terms of whatever we are doing, then it's done for the sort of Welsh football audience or even the Welsh public audience. And I think redwallplus is definitely that next step up in terms of having a streaming service, that is similar to Netflix and Disney Plus and all these things. Now the FAW has its own streaming service on Welsh football, and I think what's really important, I think, about it is again, it comes back to that representation of being able to do things differently or do things that haven't been able to be done before, or it's not possible to provide the coverage that was there before. So just since the launch of redwallplus, which is almost a year old now in terms of when it launched around the World Cup in 2022, some of the things we've been able to do, like sort of putting the Dragon Signs Amateur Trophy final on the platform, streaming sort of domestic matches which would never normally be picked up by television. We have the ability now to represent the different levels of the game. We've had Adran Trophy matches on there, Genero Adran Trophy matches on there. We started the season with a game from JD Cymru South. So we've been able to represent football in different ways. The intermediate teams, we cover, and then also just those stories that you touched on, the stories that we're able to tell, and the way that the platform allows us to work in collaboration. Obviously, we work with yourselves. We worked with Tiny Welsh Media as well as Welsh Government and everyone and S4C. So it really is almost a collaborative space and an area that a football association would normally sort of go into. But I feel that we've a lot of it is trial and error as well. Let's be honest with it, because we're not we're not a streaming service. We're a football association trying to deal with the governing of the game. But it's about how this streaming service can put across some of our key messaging and attract sort of new audiences to the game as well. So I think it's become something that is very important. It's certainly something that we're all passionate about here, and you see it advertised around the stadium on a match day, around the pitch. So it's hopefully having some cut through with the fans. The people registering is going up all the time, and in particular, I think one of my favorite things that we've actually done with it is putting cup draws on this, streaming cup draws to the platform, and making sure that all the cups are represented in both the men's, women's, boys and girls games, all the national cups that the FAW operates. Because it's just that little moment, that magic moment of when you're supporting your team and you see your club's name come out of the hat. We wanted to be able to have everybody share that experience, and having our own platform like that allows it. So even on that smallest level of a cup draw, in terms of the sort of production that's there, we now have a consistent production across everything, and we're representing every single level of the game that comes under our direct control. Even if it is just through a cup draw, it's giving everybody that moment and that excitement and that feeling of what it's like to be in a cup. Unfortunately, my club tends to get knocked out of the cup very early, so I don't tend to enjoy. I don't tend to have that special little feeling for myself, other than in the early rounds. But I think that's what's been important this year, is in terms of with the JD Welsh Cup in particular. The qualifying rounds were part of it. And we saw a big audience coming in to watch that, because again, it's that level of the competition wouldn't normally have had a televised cup draw, but we've been able to do it. So I think there's lots of aspects with redwallplus, how it complements all the other work that we do as well. But it kind of does show the power, and some of the shows that I've already mentioned, in terms of how it represents and how it tells people's stories, is just really important. From Carnival, talking about sort of art, the influence of football on the wider sort of country, and Wales on the World Stage series as well, showing the opportunity of the artists like Mace the Great and Sage Todd's going out to Qatar and New York and things like that, as a result of Wales being at the World Cup, and the opportunities that it provides to people. But also in a way as well, in terms of having something like this, and certainly a lot of the work that we've done over the years, companies like yourselves, like Tiny Welsh have grown with us as well. It's allowed you to grow the company. So there may not have been that opportunity for people in the past, and I'll ask you a question here, which I know isn't meant to be the way we do it, but when you are looking at the dragon on my shirt and how important it is that representation both on the screen and off the screen, in terms of how many people sort of worked on the dragon on my shirt, isn't it, from backgrounds that wouldn't have had an opportunity before, isn't it? So those are really strong things that we're able to do, I think, when we have a platform like redwallplus.
Yeah, massive. Football is a fantastic vehicle for bringing people together. So whether you're 18 from Cardiff or 35 from Llangefni or 65 and from Aberystwyth, football can bring everyone together. There's a lot of common themes in there. There's a lot of universal themes and things that we can talk about. And the dragon on my shirt is a perfect example of that. We talk about race and identity and what it means to be Welsh through telling the stories of Wales's Black and Asian players over the last 100 years. And some of those stories had never been told before. So it provides that platform, RedWall Plus. You've got an audience that are interested in Welsh football. We've got access to some of these players, past and present, and telling their stories and looking at identity and race and kind of what it means to be Welsh through those stories. It's a fantastic platform, and football's a fantastic tool for kind of bringing all them things together and providing a platform for stories that have been told and new voices that have never been heard before. So yeah, we're massively proud of the work that we've done with you on RedWall Plus. And going back to when we first talked about it, was it last May, last June, and we were talking about the national broadcasters. You can tell them what you're doing, and you can tell them there's a story there. If they're too busy or they haven't got the budget or there's something else, or they say, oh, is Bale or Ramsey involved? Or no, it's more grassroots, or we haven't got the time or the budget for it. RedWall Plus and the content that you're creating at the FAW allows you to drive that narrative. So you're not waiting for a national broadcaster or a national newspaper to decide that that's a good story and put their own twist on it. You're driving that. So whatever you want to say and however you want to say it, you can do that. And I think that then becomes powerful because that authenticity of those stories are not being muddled by a broadcaster or an outside party. It's passionate Welsh people, passionate Welsh stories in front and behind the camera, working with the national governing body to deliver those stories to audiences. And I think it's a massively powerful tool.
Yeah, and I think we've got good relationships with with the traditional sort of media here in Wales as well. But you're right. I think there's certain things that they're not able to do. Whether that is through funding or whether that is through decisions maybe that are taken higher up. But also, what we recognise, and I think this is quite an important point, I guess, really, is that we see what they are doing, and we're not ever looking to copy what they are doing. That's there. That's servicing. The coverage they have is servicing fans and the public in one way. But we're always looking at the different ways then that we can. So what space is left for us to be able to communicate with people? And I think that's I suppose when you look at everything. If you are a Welsh football fan now, there is something there for everyone, whether it is that sort of traditional media of just purely watching a live game and the coverage around that, or whether it is watching something with ourselves now where we can deep dive into something else or tell a story from a level of the game that perhaps wouldn't have that interest. Might be a little bit more niche. Which is the reason why it wouldn't be picked up by a traditional broadcaster. But I think it's just having that ability now to have it there and have it as a tool to use in addition to everything else that we do to try and communicate. And I think the World Cup give us a great opportunity and opportunities to sort of bring people into the sort of RedWall Plus platform, taking that interest from the national team, but then whilst they're there, we're showing them stories from other levels of football, and I think that's really important, but in an entertaining way rather than a way of it being maybe too straight-laced in terms of it. We do it in an entertaining way. But it's I think it's vitally important, and hopefully it will be something that'll continue growing. And we're slightly ahead of the game is what I'm hoping in terms of what we're doing with it, and it'll form part of our sort of plan going forward. Because I think to have one place to go where that you can get Welsh football content is fantastic. And I think the other important point, which is where FC Cymru was quite similar, and as you mentioned about football is a great way to bring people together in terms of the success that the national team, the men's national team have had, and the women's national team as well in terms of the last campaign. The way that it sort of broke down or broke into other audiences really is really powerful, and it's brought other people into the game that maybe wouldn't normally have watched the game. Around the World Cup, there's so much coverage and so much excitement around your national team playing at a World Cup, that whether you're a sports fan, a football fan, or not, you still kind of want to be involved because it just becomes part of the national conversation for that month or so that it's taking place. And I think that's definitely what we saw with the World Cup for ourselves, in that it brought in a lot of people that just wanted to celebrate being Welsh as well. And I think that's certainly the the kind of way that the FAW has operated, that authenticity that I feel we genuinely have, because we take a genuine interest in Welsh history, in terms of the future of the country, in terms of our culture, our language. And I think that sort of breaks down the barriers and brings more people in. And in a way then, RedWall Plus is a space for everyone, because it's not just the football that we talk about, it is the arts. It is the language that we talk about. So yeah, it kind of replicates. It's almost like that. It's almost like a greatest hits of all the work that we do across everything. But it is really important to us, I think, that we represent the country. It's not just it's not just football that we represent. It is a little bit of the country as well, because people take notice of football. People care about football, and once we have that platform, I think we always want to be representing other people. And I mentioned Sage Todd's earlier, Produce Menace as well, in terms of producing music videos that have accompanied sort of our sort of qualification campaigns, and in terms of what that means for representing those artists, and also those artists getting recognition off the back of working with us as well is really important. So just doing those things, you can see how those barriers then get broken down. In a way, our rule is kind of, football is there, but we kind of put the football to one side, because people are going to come and watch the football, they're going to come and support the football, but it's about the other areas that we feel we can represent as a result of the interest that the football brings.
Yeah, there's a phrase I've kind of used a couple of times this week: a high tide lifts all ships. And some of the figures that were mentioned by you and by Welsh Government around the World Cup in terms of impressions and reach, Wales has never been more visible than it has over the last 12 months. Between Welcome to Wrexham and the World Cup, Wales is on a global stage, and things like RedWall Plus, which isn't geo-locked. So if there's a program on the BBC or S4C, it could be geo-locked. RedWall Plus is open to anyone in the world, and they can come in and see that stuff. So we can use things like the World Cup as a shop window for reaching people around the world that might be part of the diaspora, might be kind of Welsh, but also might just see our little country and our little football team and think, I quite like that. That's quite nice. I wonder what else they got going on there, and come in and learn a bit more about us. Yeah,
definitely. I think it's always one of our sort of objectives when we go to major tournaments. We've been lucky to go to 3 now, which I never ever thought I'd have that. In my career, never ever thought that would happen once. But I think what's been really important about having those opportunities is the fact that people are looking at you, and you're able to promote the country in a particular way. And we spoke earlier around authenticity and talking about sort of like our moment and utilizing that moment. And when you look at the World Cup squad announcement, for example, which is something that is incredibly close to my heart, because I'm from the Rhondda. Rob Page is from the Rhondda, and we decided to host the squad announcement in the Rhondda Valleys in his hometown of Tylerstown. But we turned it into an all-day event because we knew that we had the ability to represent the work that the FAW was doing, as well as represent a community that could almost be any other community in Wales, but also a community that kind of had its heart ripped out, when the industry, when the coal industry sort of left the area, it sort of ripped the heart out of the area. So it really felt like a natural thing to do to host the World Cup squad announcement there. And at the same time, which kind of fell into our hands a little bit, the USA in our group are launching their squad announcement at the Empire State Building and turning it red, white and blue. We are hosting it at Tylerstown Welfare Hall, on the main roads in the Rhondda. And I think just that entire day probably did completely encapsulate and probably, for me, and I think this is probably why I mentioned earlier about becoming very reflective over what we've done. It's almost like the pinnacle, I think, that day in terms of what we did. We were opening 3G pitches in the Rhondda. The manager was opening the 3G pitch through investment from the Cymru Football Foundation and the FAW and its partners, UK government, Welsh government, Sport Wales, and local authorities, and just that moment sort of ticked the box in terms of the work that we're doing in the country, and that's off the back of the interest. We got the coverage off the back of the interest in the national team. The manager started the day having basically a breakfast. in a cafe in Tom Pentra with his dad, and so that wouldn't have been happening anywhere else. But when you see it, all the things that all the genuine things, these are all genuine things and not set up. That wasn't done for the press. That is just the way that we started the morning, and we all needed to come together to do the briefing for the day, and that's just where we started. And then visiting, touching upon Welsh football history with Jimmy Murphy's blue plaque at his house in Pentra as well, and that. The two of them sort of coming together in a way. The last man that took us to the World Cup, and the latest person to take us to a World Cup. So it was just full of stories that day, and through the day, I think it really encapsulates everything that we've done across sort of social media, everything we've done in real life, the stories that we've been trying to tell on RedWallplus. Everything was sort of culminated in that day. That in terms of the squad announcement at Tyldestown Welfare Hall, which was full of people in the locality. The welfare hall sold the tickets, and we allowed them to keep the money because they're restoring the building for the community. And as we learned, because we were back and forth there all the time, the amount of work that was going on at that community centre and how important the welfare hall was to the locality was very apparent while we were there. We were sat there having a coffee morning with all the with some of the residents in the area on one day while we took a break from doing the planning for the squad announcement. So really integrating ourselves into, I'm integrated into that community. I'm from the Rhondda, but so was the full team. And then into the night then, where it was full of sort of local people representing basically all the communities from across Wales. So when you look at any of the images and the footage and our social coverage from that night, that could have been anywhere in Wales. And I think that's what was really important. Tyldestown that night represented every village, every town, everywhere in Wales. Now, had that been held in Cardiff, for example, it would have been very visibly Cardiff, and it could only have been Cardiff. Whereas, at Tyldestown Welfare Hall, that was the entire country in that room with us that night.
There we go. So the pinnacle of football is the Rhondda.
Oh, well, that's some people like myself would say that. I think when you do look at it, so many links. I'm from there, the manager's from there, the previous guy who took us to the World Cup is from there. So yeah, I think it's either the Rhondda or Merthyr, because there's a large Merthyr contingent at the FAW, Mark Evans and Amanda and everyone as well. But I think that is what's important, I think, though, isn't it? Because I guess some of the other national associations, and I can't really talk on behalf of them because I don't know too much of them, but a lot of them are based in big cities. So in terms of the people that would maybe sort of go and work for them, they're likely to be people from the cities already, isn't it? Because the populations are so high in some of these places. But I think the beauty of here at the FAW is that there's so many people here, and we have a lot of people now here that work, that are from North Wales, either working here in Cardiff now or are working at Colliers Park in the north. And I think that kind of having your upbringing and living within your local communities and now working for the FAW and seeing what we can do for those communities, whether you're a club developer or whether you are working in the sort of discipline department or working in our competitions department or even finance department. I think that's why we probably are quite authentic, because all of us have our experiences of basically living local, basically, and we know when we were growing up what opportunities maybe weren't there for us, and it's about trying to give those opportunities to the country, even if it is purely through just trying to represent them and telling the stories. So just going back to that squad announcement day, that we didn't realize this at the time, but that squad announcement day was actually the key moment for media reach out of our entire World Cup experience. So I think our media reach totaled 2.9 billion, which 2.9 billion, which we thought that the figures were wrong, but 2.9 billion was the media reach in terms of everything that we'd done that day and all the stories that were able to be told. culminated in such a massive reach. And just a week after, myself and Owain in my department were on a call with the Canada national team communications department, because they wanted some advice about going back to a major tournament, which still blows my mind that they're coming to
the old pros now. Anything you need, give us a shout.
It still feels so new, but it blows my mind that. But what's really interesting in terms of the chat there, they mentioned about Tylerstown Welfare Hall, and how different it was to what the USA had done, but how it kept through to the other side of the world in terms of that complete contrast in terms of what was happening. And none of our matches at the World Cup generated nowhere near that figure. It sort of hundreds of millions, but not into the sort of billion of reach. And that's because that was our moment. It was only us, us and USA releasing the squad, and that probably helped our figures, because obviously it sort of went viral in terms of the differences. But I think what it did show, and that's what's key for us, I guess, is to learn from it and utilize it, because we used authenticity. We told the stories that we wanted to tell and represent the people that we wanted to represent. Then that was our moment, and we communicated with the world essentially that day, more than maybe what we did around the football, because I guess everybody, whilst we are playing football at the tournament, everybody else is playing football, so all that coverage is spread across all the teams. So it's still incredibly significant, and still what would have been the biggest sort of figures that we'd had to date. But I think what it showed is that moment in the Ronda in Tylerstown Welfare Hall became, probably our biggest sort of media engagement it must be of all time in terms of the FAW and the work we've done. And I think that's definitely a key learning from us. And what it goes into show then, though, is the fact of what that global stage and what that global platform looks like. Then, as you can see it in the figure, and that probably doesn't even include everyone that would have seen something. That's just the potential reach of the statistics that were available to us. But it kind of shows what that cut through can be, and then making sure then that we have those things in place, like redwallplus, for people to drop back into to find out a bit more about us and the rest of Welsh football if they really want to.
Fantastic. Yeah. Thank you very much for that, Rob. Thanks for sharing your thoughts and your ideas. I hope there's plenty of stuff there that people can kind of take away from it. Thank you to those at home that have been watching or listening, taking the time to indulge myself and Rob. We hope it was useful. Don't forget to like and share this episode and subscribe to the channel for more content.